Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it is the 21st of July, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So I just remembered yesterday that I said that I would catch you guys all next week, because I thought it was Friday yesterday, but no, it is Friday today, obviously. You ever have those times when you're just like thinking a day ahead or a day behind or something like that? That was me yesterday, so apologies if I confused anyone at the end of the episode, but let's jump into the news from the last 24 hours. So I think one piece of news that I wanted to discuss was that EthCC is no longer going to be in Paris. So next year, EthCC 2024 is going to be hosted in Brussels in Belgium. Now, of course, all of Europe is pretty close to each other, and Belgium's not very far from France. But essentially, this is the first EthCC, I believe, that has not been hosted in Paris, which is a big deal, definitely a big deal. And it may be my first EthCC, because I would rather go to Belgium, to Brussels, then go back to Paris. You guys know my opinion on Paris. Did not enjoy myself there. Just wasn't my vibe. And I don't know much about Brussels and let alone Belgium, but I have a friend who lives in Europe, and he's like, Brussels is okay. It's nothing special. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with like somewhere that's not a huge tourist destination and a huge kind of tourist attraction where you can chill and have a conference there. And then because Europe is so tight knit, you can basically make a European holiday out of it if you're a tourist from, or if you're a foreigner from the US or Asia, or me in Australia, right? So yeah, I'm definitely I'm more on the side of I'm going to go to EthCC in 2024 than I'm not at this stage. So that's going to be exciting, but we'll have to see because there's still DevCon next year as well. That's going to be in Southeast Asia. Not sure the timing of that. Don't know where it's going to be yet. I suspect Vietnam, but we'll have to see. There's DevConnect coming up in November in Istanbul. I'm not going to be there. And then Denver as well next year in like Feb, March. I don't know if I'm going to do Denver again. It was very full on this year for me, both in terms of just the amount of people there, but also the fact that I pretty much was sick the entire time. I not only got COVID, but I was jet lagged. I was tired as hell. So yeah, I don't know how much more of those kind of big conferences I can do going forward. But anyway, enough rambling about me. Hoping to potentially see you guys next year in Brussels at EthCC. It's about the same kind of like, I guess, flight time than Paris is, so I guess it's not really a big deal to change locations here, but somewhere other than Paris for EthCC is pretty cool here. So yeah, anyway, that's on that topic. Next up is, speaking of EthCC, there was a Bankless thread put together here that's named 8 of the biggest EthCC 2023 announcements. Now, of course, I've talked about a lot of these on the Refuel already, such as Lens Protocol V2, Uniswap X, Chainlink CCIP, and so on and so forth. I think the only one I hadn't talked about was maybe the EVM extends, which apparently is just not really Ethereum related news, but is EVM related news. And Tezos apparently introduced something called Etherlink, which is an EVM compatible rollup with Tezos as the L1. And Solana welcomed Solang, which is a compiler that allows writing Solidity smart contracts on Solana. So obviously not much to do with Ethereum, but to do with the EVM ecosystem. And yeah, I think the rest of that stuff I already mentioned, but if you want to dive deeper into any of that stuff, you can check out this Bankless thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, we had another AllCoreDevs call yesterday, and Tim Byko, as usual, has our wrap-up thread here for us. Not really a eventful EthCoreDevs call, nothing dramatic about it, more kind of like just of the same. I guess like the main highlights are the fact that client teams are now getting ready for DevNet 8 of Denkun, of course. There was a bit of discussion, or I should refresh the page here. The thread doesn't seem to be loading correctly. Let me just refresh that quickly. There was a bit of discussion around kind of like core dev processes and merging EIPs with ERCs, and I've discussed that before on the Refuel, so I'm not gonna rehash that there, as well as a few other bits and bobs here and there. Nothing, as I said, like nothing groundbreaking, nothing to write home about, just your standard kind of AllCoreDev call here. And then lastly as well, Tim Byko highlighted that Andrew here, who writes the Week in Ethereum newsletter, has put together a Ethereum Magicians post asking what to name the next Ethereum upgrade. So this will be the upgrade that happens after Denkun, the one that will happen in the new year. And the current names are Prague for the execution layer upgrade, and for the consensus layer upgrade, it is Electra. So usually those names are obviously put together to just just give a name for the whole upgrade, like we did with Chapala, which was Shanghai and Capella, like we're doing with Denkun, which is Cancun and Deneb. So the suggestions for the names are Petra, Praktra, Electrag, Eligue, and Pragu Electra. You can tell by the way that I was pronouncing these things. Is the first time I've read them, and also it's kind of hard. I think Petra is probably the easiest to read here. Praktra sounds like a complex version of Petra, and the rest of them, Electrag and Prague Electra, I don't know. I feel like if I had to choose or I had to give two options here, I would go with either Petra or Electrag, just because Electrag is different to Petra, but really Petra just rolls off the tongue a lot better there. So for a name that I'm going to be saying a lot on the refuel, and I'm sure core devs are going to be saying a lot, I think it's better to go with Petra than it is to go with one of these other names there. But anyway, you can have your opinion on this in this kind of Ethereum Magicians post here if you would like, and you can go check that out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description. But yeah, that's the all core devs call wrapped up there. You can, of course, read Tim Byko's thread recapping everything if you would like. I'll also link that in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, moving on, RocketScan, or the RocketScan Twitter account here, posted today that the Rocket Pool Oracle DAO has voted to cut its pay from 15% to 8% of RPL inflation now and 1.5% in a year. Now, I've talked about this before and about how the Oracle DAO's compensation was getting greatly reduced, like significantly reduced, going from 15% to 1.5% gradually over the next year. And you can see this table that the RocketScan account has published here. And I've discussed before how this has been a long time coming in terms of how much RPL was going to the oDAO, and if that was the best use of the RPL inflation, and where else it could go to better serve the Rocket Pool ecosystem and the Rocket Pool community. And discussions were had for a very long while. I don't know if it's a year's worth of discussions, like serious discussions, but I have been monitoring it for the last 6 months, and there have been a lot of serious discussions about this, and it was decided that this would be the way to reduce it and then redirect those that RPL to the PDAO, which is the development DAO of the Rocket Pool ecosystem, to be used for things like liquidity incentives or to pay people to build things in the Rocket Pool community, or any such thing like that, rather than paying the oDAO. Now, I voted in favor of this, of course. I mean, as you guys know, I've been donating my oDAO rewards anyway, because I felt like I did feel like the oDAO was getting paid a lot, and I felt bad kind of taking that money as well. I think that at some point when it reduces down to, I guess, like a reasonable sum, I'm going to cease donating the rewards and just kind of like take the rewards for myself. One, because the operating costs of an oDAO node operator is quite significant in terms of the percentage of the rewards once it gets down to, I guess, its lowest tier here, especially as Ethereum gas fees go up, because the operating costs are pretty much like all gas fees, and I've got my electricity costs on top of that and everything else that I've been just running for free, basically. So I think that once the rewards come down to a certain point, I haven't decided yet what point that might be. It might be like the end of the year when, in terms of like the US dollar amount, I don't know what the price here is assumed of RPL here, but when the US dollar amount goes to what, like 10K or less a month or something, and then I have to factor in taxes into that because I'll be taking it for myself. Taxes could end up being basically half of that for me. Just depends on when. It just depends on my kind of like total income for the year. So then maybe I net out like 5K. Then the operating costs, if Ethereum gas fees go up, it gets crazier. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of something I've been thinking about lately. I definitely think that 50K a month was way too much, but when it gets down to a reasonable sum, I'll definitely just cease the donations and take on the RPL for myself, and kind of like just pay for the operating costs and things like that with it. So yeah, just putting it out there for you guys. But in terms of how this will actually impact the Rocket Pool ecosystem, it remains to be seen. I did discuss the other day about how the rewards are being redirected and what that's going to look like. But at the same time, I think that the oDAO thing, or I guess like the rewards going to the oDAO, was a big point of contention for the Rocket Pool community. And I think by reducing the rewards and making the community feel like it's a fairer ecosystem, that will be long-term beneficial, because the same kind of thing happened in, I guess, like Ethereum on just like a larger scale. So maybe this is this isn't the best analogy, but with Ethereum, there was a long period of time where we were paying miners a lot, right? But this is obviously back on proof of work, and then we had something called the third inning, where we basically reduced issuance from 3 ETH per block to 2 ETH per block. And during the period where we were paying 3 ETH per block, everyone was like, we're paying so much to miners, this is crazy, we need to reduce this. And then once it got reduced, everyone felt a lot better about it. So I think that the same is true for the oDAO, where now the oDAO rewards are being reduced, there's a lot less kind of like animosity, there's a lot less resentment, there's a lot less drama in the Rocket Pool community, and that should lead to positive externalities and a positive effect later down the line there. I know recently the RPL price, USD price has come down. I'm not going to comment on that, to be honest. I mean, I have said before that I believed RPL was a decent token, but at the same time, like, I didn't hold that much myself, and I didn't obviously recommend anyone to go and buy it. But at the end of the day, tokens go through price cycles. Every token does, every coin does. It doesn't matter what it is, it goes through a price cycle, no matter how bullish it is either, right? No matter how much you think that this token should be worth, 10x what it's worth today or whatever, there's always cycles that happen here. And I've talked a lot about this before when it comes to markets, where a lot of people recently thought, oh yeah, like the SEC losing to Ripple means that the bull market is back on because prices went nuts, and this lifts the uncertainty from crypto and all this. And like, all of that is true in terms of like lifting the uncertainty from crypto and potentially providing more regulatory clarity and getting legislation put through, but that's not going to be reflected in the market immediately, and not even in probably the short to medium term. It's more of a longer term thing. And I went over the other day how if you look at the ranges of things and how long it usually takes to play out, it takes longer than you would like. And then I see people complaining about, stocks going up and crypto not going up. It's the same thing, guys. It's the same thing on a kind of like crypto macro scale, encompassing all of the coins and tokens. And then on the micro scale, when you look at each individual token and what their catalysts are and how they're trading, they'll have like a narrative trade for a short term, but then they'll sell back down. But at the end of the day, when it comes to investing and you're a long-term investor, like a multi-year investor, you have a thesis. You have to stick to that thesis through thick and thin, because there are periods of time where things are going to be really bad and periods of time where they're going to be really good. Maybe you have a strategy to take profits when things are really good, and that's usually how the best investors in the world actually do this, right? They don't get married to an investment, because they know that these investments, even though they still like it, go through these phases. Like, just like what happened with ETH in 2017, going to 1,400 from $10. If you were an experienced investor and you knew how these cycles work, you were taking profits at that point. Even if you loved Ethereum, even if you loved ETH, you were taking profits there. The same is true from when ETH went to like 4K or 5K, and you bought ETH at like between $100 and $300. You're like, okay, I love ETH and I love Ethereum, but I feel like the market's gotten too hot now. I'm going to take profits. That's what happens on short, medium, long-term cycles. It doesn't mean that people are bullish or bearish on things. It just means that they are selling at what the current market price is, because they believe that their current market price is enough for them to take profits on it. Maybe and a lot of the time, don't get me wrong, people sell things and never buy it back or aren't bullish on it anymore. They think, this is stupid, I'm going to sell this because it doesn't make sense. That happens a lot too, but that's just the game. At the end of the day, investing is really, really hard, guys. And I've said this a lot of times on the Refuel. Bull markets make you think investing is easy. Bear markets convince you that it's one of the hardest things you can do, especially if you're a first cycler and you just experienced your first bear/crab market. I'm sure by now you've been completely humbled. Like, imagine you got into crypto in the bull market, right? Imagine you got in the start of 2021, and then literally for that entire year, besides maybe, I guess, like mid-year, everything was up only, essentially, right? And you could make money by basically just throwing money at anything, and the meme coins were popping up, everything was popping off, right? And then imagine the next year, 2022, you as a first cycler, most people as a first cycler, they'll think, oh, this is just like a break, this is just a dump before we come back, right? Because we already did this in 2021, it's for sure going to come back. And then you go through the whole of 2022, where need I remind you how many things blew up in 2022, and then you get into 2023, and at the start of the year, things start going up again, right? And ETH basically doubles in price. You're like, yes, we're back, baby. And then it doesn't keep going. It just stops. And then it comes back down a bit. And then these other things that you've bought aren't doing very well. They keep bleeding against ETH and BTC. And now we get to where we are today, and you're thinking, okay, you've accepted your fate. If you're still around, you're like, wow, okay, everything I thought was true is not true. That's the stuff that first cyclers go through, and that's the lessons that they go through. But at the end of the day, investing is very, very hard. Doesn't matter what you invest in. Doesn't matter how bullish you are on it. Doesn't matter how much you think the market is wrong. The market can literally stay wrong for years. It can stay wrong for years for one reason or another. It doesn't matter. But what you want to do is you want to position yourself when the market is right. And then you want to be right with the market. And then you will obviously, hopefully, profit from that. Anyway, that was a little, I guess, tangent about markets generally, because I've seen a lot of discussion around RPL in the Daily Gwei Discord channel. I know a lot of you guys are long on RPL. I have a stack of it. Of course, you guys know you can see it on sassel.eth. And I also have my Oracle DAO or oDAO bond as well. So I have a decent size a stack of it, but in terms of my overall portfolio, it doesn't really kind of like register that much. And I guess like I'm in a different position to a lot of you guys as well in terms of how much risk I'm comfortable taking on and stuff like that. But whatever. I'm not trying to say that RPL is going to do bad or good or anything like that. I'm very bullish on the Rocket Pool ecosystem and protocol generally. I'm very bullish on Rocket Pool as a decentralized staking provider. But at the end of the day, guys, price is going to do what price does. I think you have to just deal with that as best you can. Anyway, enough about that. Moving on to the next topic, Diva. So speaking of decentralized staking protocols, Diva announced today that the Diva operator testnet is coming to to all of us, live in July. So obviously, we're in July right now, but I guess like this is happening towards the end of July here. So if you're interested in joining the Diva operator testnet, you can get all the details here. There is a post here about operators or how to become an operator, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But great to see Diva making some moves here. I know that Diva has become very popular within the Ethereum staking community recently. I'm seeing a lot of long-time Ethereum community members and people from like the ETHstaker community get very excited about it. I'm happy to see that because I look to those guys as a sort of kind of source of legitimacy for projects, definitely, and whatever they put their weight behind, I can trust that they've actually vetted and they know what they're talking about, and they know that this project isn't a scam or a rug or anything like that. Because I personally hadn't looked at Diva too closely, but I have been lately, so it's just great to see them joining the fray here among all the other solutions that we have, like Swell and Rocket Pool and many others out there that I'm not naming right now, like Stakewise and stuff like that. The Ethereum staking ecosystem is getting better by the day, and I'm excited to be along for the ride as a solo staker, Rocket Pool staker, future Stakewise V3 staker, possibly Diva staker, and more, right? So yeah, anyway, you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, L2Beat has published a report that they're calling Upgradeability of Ethereum L2s. So they say here, take it to your post-EthCC flight and explore the intricate world of Ethereum L2 upgrades, and you can read the full report or follow this thread for a sneak peek. So the full report here, you can download it. It is you can download it of Google Drive, basically. But what the report does, and they describe it here, is basically it goes over what the current state of Ethereum L2s look like from the perspective of upgradability. So you guys know that a lot of the times I talk about these L2s and how they have multi-sigs and how they have upgradability. Basically what that means is that the smart contracts themselves can be upgraded, so they can be changed in some way to do something, right? Maybe not all of them, but maybe the bridge contract or maybe the core part of the L2. And usually, especially in the early life of an L2, that upgradability power is given to a multi-sig. Now, you can see here with ZK Sync Lite, for example, there is a multi-sig 4 out of 7, so it only needs 4 signers out of the 7 to approve an upgrade to these things here, as you can see listed, as well as a another ZK Sync multi-sig that has a 9 out of 15 to approve different things here. And there's different kind of approval levels and different contracts to be approved and different things that can be done here. And that's just an example. But if you want to dive deeper into how this works and how it works for each of the L2s, you can download this report for yourself, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But I believe, as I was talking about yesterday, about L2s and the risk associated with them, I do believe that this is required reading for anyone who's interested in the state of the L2 space, what upgradability looks like, and how we're actually going to get to a point where essentially we either don't have upgradability or we have upgradability with long delay time. So for example, on Arbitrum right now, since they launched their DAO, I think there's like a 21-day time lock on one of their contracts or something like that. I don't know the exact details. They are listed on L2Beat.com if you want to check that out. But for example, a mature state would be that governance has power over upgradability of the L2, but it cannot be upgraded instantly. It needs to go through a time lock period. And ideally, you have like a multi-tiered time lock period where basically it's like a separation of powers, as I discussed yesterday in the context of optimism governance, where you would have like the House needs to pass something, and then it needs to go to the Senate, and then it needs to be kind of like blessed by the president, basically, right? So I think that the same would be true for a mature decentralized governance system for these L2s, where you would have to pass through different levels of governance in order to get an upgrade pass, and then it goes into a time lock period. Is 30 days long enough? I don't know, right? That's up to governance to decide. 30 days might not be long enough for people to be warned about a malicious pending upgrade or anything like that. Maybe it's not long enough for people to respond to that. So all those questions are obviously open. They're things that are being discussed by the Ethereum community, and it's just great to see L2Beat put out this report today to go into more depth about this if that is something that you're interested in. So I'll link this in the YouTube description below, and you can go check it out. All right, last up here, I came across this tweet from Utopia today. So they've announced something called USDC bank transfers for businesses. So now you can send USDC to any US bank account available to entities in all countries. So they say here, pay service providers in crypto, pay office rent in crypto, and pay your mum in crypto. Pay literally anyone who has a US bank account. So this is basically bridging the TradFi and crypto ecosystems. And you can see here how it basically works. It works via Utopia, of course, which is a treasury management solution for Gnosis Safe users. So essentially, they say here, Utopia's USDC bank transfers can power any crypto payments use case imaginable, such as VC funds sending USDC wires to portfolio companies, NFT and DeFi projects off-ramping their on-chain revenue, companies paying the AWS bill plus service providers with USDC. And you can see here an example of what this looks like on the app that's built into Gnosis Safe here, as well as how it works. So basically, you can apply as a business by signing up at Utopia Labs. You'll have to do KYC, of course, because this is touching the traditional finance system. This isn't just crypto, so you definitely need to do KYC. You can get your application approved in less than 2 business days and start off-ramping USDC. So it's a pretty simple process here. It's, I guess, very similar to a centralized exchange process, but this is abstracting all of that away, where essentially you can just send directly in the Gnosis Safe app, send USDC, which gets converted in the background to USD and gets deposited into a bank account, which I think is a great way to abstract away all these things. So very, very cool to see this kind of like a connection here of the traditional and crypto finance ecosystems. And, you know, this kind of a use case here of VC funds sending USDC wires to portfolio companies actually hits home for me, because a lot of the time, I would say like 90% or 95% of the investments I've made have been, or angel investments I've made have been via USDC. But I believe a lot of the portfolio companies would be then sending that USDC to an exchange and exchanging it for USD, because they need that USD to pay costs that they can't pay in USDC. So I think for a lot of companies raising, it may be easier for them to say, hey, yeah, we do accept USDC, but we're doing it through like this Utopia thing, so just send it to us on there, and then it automatically gets converted for them into USD, into their bank account, so they don't have to worry about all that accounting stuff there and keeping track of everything and having, you know, to go through centralized exchanges and all that stuff. So that's definitely a big up there. But expect to see more of this stuff going forward. I've talked about real world assets before and how a lot of that stuff's coming on chain. At the end of the day, USDC is a representation of a real world asset, which is USD coming on chain. All stable coins are, well, all centralized collaterally stable coins that are backed by USD in a bank account are. I should specify there. So yeah, we're going to see more of these kind of like tools come online, and integrating with Gnosis Safe is a no-brainer, because Gnosis Safe, or now I guess like it's just called Safe, is basically what the vast majority of these companies use, because when it comes to custody and when it comes to multi-sig custody, you do not want to be trusting something new. You want to be trusting something tried and tested. And right now, Safe doesn't have upgradeability, as I was just talking about upgradeability before. So the contracts can't be upgraded, which means that you can't get rugged by the team or anything like that. The contracts themselves have a massive bounty on them because they hold over $100 billion worth of crypto, I believe, which means that I don't know if it's still $100 billion. That may be an old figure, but generally it's tens of billions of dollars, which means that if someone was able to find an exploit in the safe contract, they could stand to profit up to tens of billions of dollars. So that is a huge outstanding bug bounty there, and it hasn't been exploited yet. So that adds trust and Lindy to it. And makes people want to use it. And the Gnosis Safe App ecosystem, or sorry, I should say Safe App ecosystem is really awesome. And I've used it and it works really well most of the time. Sometimes it's a bit but it's up to the apps, obviously, to make sure that they're integrated properly there. So, yeah. Anyway, you can go check this out. I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to do so. Now, I have a few minutes here just to talk about one last thing. Again, a reminder that there's going to be no refuels on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday next week, most likely because I'm going to be in Sydney. But on top of that as well, there was sorry, I should remind you guys, there was an AMA done by the Tax on Chain guys, Merlo, who you may have seen in the Discord channel before, in the crypto, in the Daily Gwei Discord channel under the accounting taxes channel there, mostly focused on Aussie tax questions, but you can go check that out. A lot of great questions and answers there, and a huge shout out and thank you to Merlo and the Tax on Chain team for doing that there. Really helpful to everyone within the Daily Gwei community. Now, as I said, one last thing I wanted to talk about. I was talking about the market stuff before, and I've been talking about it a lot more recently. Please let me know if you don't want me to talk about the markets stuff. I try to avoid it generally because day to day, there's really not much happening. But I feel like I'm at a point now in my crypto, I guess, like life or investing life. It's been 10 years since I've been in crypto. Well, technically it's been 8 because I wasn't in crypto in like 2015 or 2016, but I started in 2013. So I'm gonna say like 10 years worth at this point. And I think I have a pretty decent grasp on how different market cycles work and how people can like best position themselves for success, not in terms of giving direct investment advice, but just giving kind of like the advice or the wisdom or kind of like imparting that wisdom on you guys that I've built up over a long period of time in the crypto ecosystem. So please let me know if you want less of that, because as I said, this show is not about prices, it's not about technical analysis or telling you where the crypto market's going to go or anything like that. And I have said before that I will let you know when I think the bull market has started. You'll probably know when it started because I'm not going to tell you until I'm like pretty much 100% certain. But as I've said before, in general, the rest of this year, I'm expecting it to be kind of meh, crab market action. Maybe we break above 2K for a little bit or something like that. I'm not expecting any fireworks, but next year definitely seems like it could be a positive year. But yeah, that's just based on a lot of the things that I went over the other day, so I'm not going to rehash that there. But do let me know if you are tired of the market stuff and want me to focus less on it. Always happy to hear feedback from you guys. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Discord channel. Join the Discord channel. Subscribe to the newsletter. And I'll catch you all next week. Yes, it is actually next week now because it is Friday. So yeah, catch you all on Monday. Thanks, everyone.